Hey guys, Coach Joe here. So I'm going to talk today about why unilateral exercises are so important to add to your repertoire. The number one thing that they add is variety with lack of spinal load that will make sure that you're still getting the same amount or even potentially more work than bilateral exercise. One of the best examples of this is going to be your rear foot elevated or just a regular split squat. Right? When you are doing a bilateral regular squat, you are doing about 50% ideally in each leg. When you do a split squat, non rear foot elevated, it's about 70-30 with an emphasis on the front foot. Now you can affect this ratio by making sure to put more weight on that front foot while you're doing the motion and keeping that foot the priority. But a rear foot elevated, you're looking at about 90% and 10%, right? 10% that back foot and 90% that front foot. So when you're doing this, the best thing that you can do is make sure that you figure out a weight that will improve where you're at, right? What I mean by that is if I'm doing squats, right, and I'm using, I don't know, we'll just go with like a normal like 225 or 315, right? Don't throw 315 on a split squat, but also don't use like 220s in each hand, right? You should be able to find a weight that will give you a good amount of emphasis on that front foot that will give it more work than what you would have done with two legs. So an example would be, 315. If you split that into two, it's 157 and a half pounds. So realistically, you should be able to find, okay, what's 70% of something that will make it 157 and a half pounds on that front leg, right? So you just have to make sure that you're figuring out the weights that will give you that emphasis. Now, for some people, that won't work, right? Typically, these won't be the people that are squatting 315, 405, whatever, and so on and so forth. These will be the people that are coming into the gym just to work on the general movement and get a little bit stronger for their day-to-day life, which is a great goal. But unilateral exercises are potentially even more important for you. This is where you will learn to balance better. You'll be able to learn how to use one part of your body while the other one is isolated away from it. And you'll be able to focus on really feeling a different range of motion out, right? It's important that you add these in. Good examples outside of a split squat would be reverse lunges. You could do a sliding reverse lunge. Those are really good for helping with balance. Lateral squats, but especially a slider lateral squat is going to be great for improving our hip strength and also improving balance. And a lot of bench variations are really good to do unilaterally. The two most common things I hear that people have issues with are shoulders and their lower back, right? And if you felt either of them, the benefits of unilateral are twofold, right? If it's your shoulder, if you're doing one arm at a time, you can kind of train your body to even out. Potentially there's a muscular imbalance from some type of traumatic injury that happened there, or you're just going to be able to use less load to get a similar motor unit recruitment for building the same amount of muscle. Beyond that, with the spinal load that I brought up in the beginning, this is going to be good for your lower back, right? So typically a lot of our unilateral exercises for the lower body, you're able to load by holding two dumbbells instead of your normal loading a bar, which can put pressure on your spine. Now, for some people, once you get to a certain weight, using the dumbbells is not going to be sufficient. So you might have to go to using a barbell or a safety squat barbell, which is what we use in here very frequently. And for some people, once you get past a certain level, there's also other variations. A good regression for a lot of people is a Hatfield rear foot elevated split squat. The cool thing about this one is it's both a regression to a rear foot elevated split squat, or Bulgarian split squat if you call it that, and a progression. Regression wise, it just makes it easier to balance. So you can just have someone hold on to it, use low weight, and just practice that motion. Progression wise, you might be able to add a ton more weight, right? So you might have someone that's doing, I don't know, 275 on the like a front rack rear foot elevated split squat. And then if you give them a safety bar to be able to do a Hatfield and grab on, you might be able to have them overload that probably by 30, 40, maybe 50%. And obviously some of that load will be transferred through the arms, but a majority of it's still going to be put onto the legs, which means that you might get, okay, let's go with that 50%, you might get 30% more motor unit recruitment or weight volume put onto that front leg than if you were to just go with the weight that you could only handle because of balance issues, which is typically what will happen. Is you'll see someone be able to progress, and then it gets really tough because balance is going to be thrown off. And then you might have to switch the bar position when you could just go for a Hatfield, keep it easy, or even have a safety squat bar where you don't have to have the grip originally. You can hold it here, and then if you feel like you're getting stuck or falling down, then you can have that at least for a safety to grab onto. Finally, unilateral exercises are awesome for muscle building without getting the crazy fatigue you might get. CNS is something that you have to pay attention to, right? Your central nervous system can only handle so much load during a week. That is putting a lot of pressure on your body. So an exercise where you might do a 2 dumbbell rear foot elevated split squat. Again, I know I keep using that example, but that'll put a lot less strain on your body than doing another set of front squats or whatever exercise that you're hitting, right? So your CNS won't be as fried, which means that you'll be a little bit more awake and you'll recover a little bit easier. Now, are there places for doing both where you do a higher volume training? Sure. But in the training that we're doing in here, typically I want you to be able to come in three times a week. So if you're feeling like, oh man, I can't make it my second or third time because I'm so sore from, or my CNS is so tired from before, then we're not going to be able to hit as much volume throughout the week. Whereas we would still get the amount of muscular volume that we want if we did the easier exercise in the next couple workouts instead of the more difficult one on your central nervous system. Hopefully this was helpful. If you learned anything, leave a comment below, and I'll see you next time.